The conference hall buzzed with nervous energy. Rows of chairs filled with the world's most brilliant minds, each hoping to make their mark in the vast universe of scientific discovery. Park Ji-eun adjusted her glasses, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her research folder. At 32, she was one of the youngest lead researchers in astrophysics, with a reputation for challenging traditional thinking. Kim Sung-ho stood at the back of the room, his sharp eyes scanning the audience. He was different from the typical researcher, more of a lone wolf who preferred the quiet of his remote research station to crowded conference halls. His colleagues often joked that he was more comfortable with complex mathematical equations than with human interactions. When Ji-eun took the stage, something changed. Her presentation on unexplored cosmic communication patterns was unlike anything Sung-ho had ever heard. She spoke with a passion that made complex scientific theories sound like captivating stories. Her slides were a mix of intricate data and breathtaking space imagery that seemed to come alive under the projection lights. Sung-ho couldn't help but listen. At first he was critical. His mind was already picking apart her methodology, finding potential flaws in her research approach. But as she continued, his skepticism began to transform into something else, a grudging respect. During the Q&A session, Sung-ho raised his hand. The room fell silent. Everyone knew his reputation for asking the most challenging questions. "Your theory," he began, his voice calm but cutting, "fails to address the fundamental limitations of interstellar communication signals." Ji-eun didn't flinch. Instead, she met his challenge head-on. "On the contrary," she responded, her voice steady. "The limitations you're referring to are based on outdated research models that haven't evolved in the past decade." The tension was palpable. Other researchers leaned forward, watching the intellectual sparring match unfold. It was clear this was more than just a simple scientific debate. This was a clash of brilliant minds. What nobody in the room realized was that this moment would change everything. Two researchers from different backgrounds, with completely different approaches to science, were about to be drawn into a journey neither could have predicted. Sung-ho's research station was located in a remote area of South Korea, nestled in mountains that seemed to touch the sky. He had chosen this location specifically for its minimal electromagnetic interference, allowing for the purest possible scientific observations. Ji-eun's background was different. She came from a bustling research university in Seoul, where innovation and collaboration were daily currency. Their approaches to science couldn't have been more different. Sung-ho was methodical, almost rigid, in his approach. Every calculation was checked and double-checked. Ji-eun was more intuitive, believing that the most significant discoveries often came from unexpected connections and creative thinking. As the conference continued, they found themselves repeatedly crossing paths. Each interaction was a mixture of intellectual challenge and growing curiosity. They would debate during coffee breaks, challenge each other's presentations, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, begin to respect one another. Little did they know that their initial rivalry was the first step towards a discovery that would change our understanding of the universe forever. The conference was just the beginning, a spark that would soon become a blazing journey of scientific exploration and personal transformation. The room might have been filled with the world's most brilliant minds, but in that moment, only two stood out: Park Ji-eun and Kim Sung-ho, two researchers whose paths were about to become unexpectedly and beautifully intertwined. Would you like me to continue with the same engaging style for the subsequent parts? Here's an expanded version of Part 2 in an engaging, human-centric style. The research facility felt different now. What was once a sterile environment of cold machinery and endless computer screens had transformed into something more alive. Ji-eun's workspace was a controlled chaos of sticky notes, star charts, and half-empty coffee cups. Sung-ho's side of the lab remained meticulously organized, but now with subtle signs of their shared work: a shared notebook, overlapping research papers, two coffee mugs that seemed to always sit side by side. Their first collaborative project came unexpectedly. A strange signal had been detected, something that didn't match any known pattern of cosmic communication. Most researchers would have dismissed it as background noise or a technical glitch, but Ji-eun and Sung-ho saw something more. "Look at this," Ji-eun would say, her fingers tracing complex wave patterns on the computer screen. Sung-ho would lean in, his initial skepticism slowly melting into genuine curiosity. Their late-night research sessions became a dance of intellects. She would make a wild hypothesis, and he would methodically break it down, only to rebuild it with even more intricate possibilities. Their families didn't understand their dedication. Ji-eun's mother would call, worried about her daughter spending endless nights in the research facility. "You're working too hard," she'd say. "When will you think about settling down?" Sung-ho's parents were similarly concerned, wondering why their son seemed more married to his research than to any actual person. But something was changing between them. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It was a deeper connection. They understood each other in a way no one else could. Sung-ho learned to appreciate Ji-eun's intuitive leaps of logic. Ji-eun began to see the beauty in Sung-ho's methodical approach, how his careful calculations could turn a wild theory into a potential breakthrough. The mysterious signal became their shared obsession. It came in strange, intermittent bursts, like a cosmic whisper that was almost, but not quite, comprehensible. Most of their colleagues thought they were chasing shadows, but they knew different. One particularly challenging night, after 16 straight hours of research, they made a breakthrough. The signal wasn't random. It had a pattern, complex but definitely intentional. Sung-ho's hands were shaking as he ran the final calculations. Ji-eun stood perfectly still, her breath caught in her throat. "This changes everything," Sung-ho whispered, his voice breaking the silence of the lab. Ji-eun laughed, a sound of pure, unbridled joy that echoed through the sterile research facility. It was the first time Sung-ho had heard her laugh like that. Something shifted between them in that moment. Their research was more than just a scientific pursuit now. It was a shared journey, a mutual quest to understand something bigger than themselves. They began to share more than just data. Lunch breaks became conversations about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Sung-ho learned about Ji-eun's childhood, dream of becoming an astronaut. Ji-eun discovered Sung-ho's secret passion for traditional Korean poetry, something he'd never shared with anyone before. They were becoming more than colleagues. They were becoming friends. The mysterious signal continued to challenge everything they knew about cosmic communication. Each day brought new discoveries, new questions, and with each discovery their connection grew stronger. Their colleagues started to notice the change. The once competitive researchers were now a team, a force that seemed almost unstoppable. When they presented their findings, the scientific community listened. No longer were they just two individual researchers. They had become something more. As weeks turned into months, the line between their professional and personal connection began to blur. They didn't just work together, they understood each other in a way that went beyond words, beyond science. Little did they know their greatest challenge was yet to come. The mysterious signal was about to reveal something that would change their lives forever and test the very limits of their newfound connection. Would you like me to continue with the same engaging approach for the next part? Here's an expanded version of part 3 in an engaging, human-centric style. The mountain observatory was unlike anything they'd experienced before. Perched high above the clouds, it felt like they were closer to the stars than to the Earth. Cold winds whipped around the small research station, a constant reminder of how isolated they were from the rest of the world. Their expedition was supposed to be routine: collect data, run some advanced scans, and hopefully capture more of the mysterious signal they'd been tracking. But nothing about this journey would be simple. The first night was challenging. Equipment malfunction seemed to be their only consistent companion. Sophisticated scanners flickered and died. Computer systems struggled against the harsh mountain environment, and the tension between Ji-eun and Sung-ho began to rise. Here's an expanded version of part 1 in a human-centric, engaging style. "We should have checked the thermal regulators before leaving," Sung-ho muttered, his fingers working frantically to restart the main computer system. Ji-eun could see the stress lines forming on his forehead, something she'd never noticed before. "Sometimes," she said softly, "technology fails us. It's how we respond that matters." Sung-ho looked up, surprised by her calm. In the past, he would have expected her to argue, to challenge his technical assessment, but something had changed between them. As night fell, the observatory became their entire world. Outside, snow began to fall heavily, creating a blanket of silence that seemed to amplify their isolation. Their research equipment continued to struggle, each failure bringing them closer to a critical moment of discovery, or complete failure. It was during the darkest part of the night that everything changed. The primary scanning system suddenly collapsed, taking months of potential research with it. In that moment, most researchers would have given up, but not them. Ji-un pulled out a small, modified device she'd been working on secretly. It was experimental, something she'd developed during their late-night research sessions. Sung-ho watched, his scientific skepticism battling with a newfound respect for her innovative thinking. "This might work," she said, her voice a mixture of hope and determination. The device was nothing like their sophisticated equipment. It was rough, almost handmade, with components that looked like they'd been cobbled together from spare parts. But when Ji-un connected it to their remaining systems, something magical happened. The signal they'd been chasing for months suddenly became clear, not just clear, it was beautiful. Complex mathematical patterns danced across their screens, revealing a communication method they'd never imagined possible. Sung-ho realized something in that moment. His calculated, methodical approach wasn't everything. Ji-un's intuition, her ability to think beyond established scientific boundaries, was equally valuable. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine wonder. Ji-un smiled, a smile that spoke of years of hard work, of countless nights of research, of believing in something bigger than herself. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to trust something beyond pure calculation." Their hands touched accidentally while adjusting the equipment. It was a brief moment, but something electric passed between them. Years of professional distance began to crumble. The mountain observatory, with its harsh winds and isolated beauty, became a crucible for their relationship. They weren't just researchers anymore. They were partners in the truest sense of the word. As dawn broke, painting the snow-covered mountains in soft golden light, they realized they'd discovered more than just a mysterious signal. They'd discovered each other. Their breakthrough wasn't just scientific. It was deeply, profoundly personal. Would you like me to continue with the same engaging approach for the next part? Here's an expanded version of Part 4, in an engaging, human-centric style. The conference room felt like a battlefield. Rows of stern-faced scientists and government officials lined the long table, their eyes fixed on Sung-ho and Ji-un like predators waiting to strike. What had begun as a groundbreaking scientific discovery was now becoming something far more complicated. International media had caught wind of their research. Headlines screamed about the mysterious cosmic signal, spinning wild theories that ranged from alien communication to government conspiracy. Sung-ho's hands were clasped tightly beneath the table, his knuckles white with tension. Ji-un sat beside him, outwardly calm, but internally preparing for the storm. "Your research challenges everything we know about interstellar communication," a senior scientific committee member began, his voice dripping with skepticism. "How can we verify these findings?" The questioning was relentless. Each committee member seemed determined to tear apart their months of painstaking research. They dissected every calculation, every hypothesis, looking for the smallest crack in their scientific armor. But Sung-ho and Ji-un were no longer just individual researchers. They were a team in the truest sense. When one struggled to explain a complex theory, the other would seamlessly step in. Their thought processes so synchronized that it seemed almost supernatural. Their personal connection didn't go unnoticed. Whispers spread through the scientific community. Were they letting their personal relationship compromise their professional integrity? It was a challenge they hadn't anticipated. Back at their research facility, the pressure intensified. Government funding hung in the balance. Their colleagues watched with a mixture of admiration and suspicion. Some supported their groundbreaking work, while others saw them as potential frauds. Ji-un's family became worried. Her mother called late one night, her voice trembling with concern. "Is it worth it?" she asked. All this pressure, all this scrutiny. Sung-ho's parents were equally concerned. They had always hoped their son would follow a traditional path, stable research, a predictable career, a quiet life. This international spotlight was everything they had never wanted, but something had changed in both of them. The mysterious signal they'd discovered was more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was a testament to human curiosity, to the endless possibility of understanding something beyond our current knowledge. Late one night, in the quiet of their shared research space, they talked about giving up. The pressure was immense. Government agencies were threatening to shut down their research, funding was being cut, their reputation was on the line. "We could walk away," Sung-ho said softly, looking at Ji-eun. She met his gaze, a smile playing on her lips. "And miss the biggest discovery of our lifetime?" Their next presentation would be their most important. They knew everything was at stake: their research, their reputation, their future. They spent weeks preparing, running countless simulations, double-checking every single piece of data. The day of the final presentation arrived. The same stern-faced committee, the same skeptical government officials, the same intense scrutiny. But something was different this time. Sung-ho and Ji-eun were different. They weren't just presenting research, they were telling a story of human determination, of pushing beyond known boundaries, of believing in something greater than themselves. As they began their presentation, the room fell silent. Their data was impeccable, their reasoning was sound, and their passion was undeniable. The mysterious signal they'd discovered wasn't just a scientific anomaly. It was a message of hope, of connection, of possibilities beyond what anyone had imagined. Would you like me to continue with the same engaging approach for the final part? Here's an expanded version of Part 5 in an engaging, human-centric style. The breakthrough came on an ordinary Tuesday morning, but nothing about that day would be ordinary. Ji-eun had been awake for 36 hours straight, her eyes red and strained, from endless hours of analysis. Sung-ho brought her coffee, black, strong, the way she liked it during intense research moments. Their research facility had become more than a workplace. It was their shared world, a sanctuary of discovery. "Look at this," Ji-eun whispered, her finger tracing a complex pattern on the massive screen. What had seemed like random noise for months was slowly revealing its true nature. The signal they discovered wasn't just communication, it was a language, intricate, beautiful, unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Each mathematical wave carried information that challenged everything they knew about cosmic intelligence. Sung-ho's mathematical brain began breaking down the patterns. Ji-eun's intuitive approach filled the gaps. They worked like two halves of a perfect whole, their minds moving in perfect synchronization. "It's not just a message," Sung-ho said, his voice trembling with excitement. "It's a complex communication system that adapts and evolves." Their discovery went beyond traditional scientific boundaries. This was more than research. This was a moment that would redefine human understanding of intelligence itself. International scientific communities watched in awe. What had started as a controversial research project was now becoming the most significant cosmic discovery in human history. The signal revealed patterns of communication that suggested intelligent life existed in ways humans had never imagined. It wasn't about technology or advanced machinery. It was about connection, about understanding, about reaching beyond known limitations. Their personal journey mirrored their scientific discovery. Two individuals from different backgrounds, with different approaches, had found a way to communicate, to understand, to grow together. Government research centers wanted complete control. Military agencies saw potential strategic advantages. But Sung-ho and Ji-eun were committed to something greater, pure scientific discovery and human understanding. "We're not just researchers," Ji-eun told a packed international conference. "We're explorers of human potential." Sung-ho stood beside her, their hands almost touching, a silent testament to their journey. Their love had become a metaphor for their scientific breakthrough, two different entities finding perfect harmony. The cosmic signal they decoded suggested that intelligence wasn't about technological advancement. It was about adaptability, about understanding, about connection. Their research suggested that communication transcended traditional boundaries. Language wasn't just about words. It was about intention, about emotional resonance, about finding common ground in the most unexpected places. News channels around the world ran their story. They became symbols of scientific collaboration, of love that crossed professional boundaries, of human potential. Universities worldwide began restructuring research programs based on their discoveries. Young scientists looked up to them as role models, not just for their scientific achievements, but for their personal journey. Their parents, who had once worried about their unconventional paths, now looked at them with immense pride. The shy researcher and the passionate scientist had changed the world. During their Nobel Prize acceptance speech, they spoke not about their individual achievements, but about the power of collaboration, of understanding, of believing in something bigger than oneself. Our discovery, Sung-ho said, holding Ji-eun's hand, is a reminder that the universe is far more complex and beautiful than we ever imagined. Ji-eun squeezed his hand. Their journey had been about more than just a cosmic signal. It had been about finding each other, about proving that true connection knows no boundaries. As they looked out over the audience, they knew their story was just beginning. The universe had more secrets to reveal, and they would discover them together. Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this final section?